Hey, in this video, check it out. I'm gonna show you some basic care tips of your MFT3, but also some hacks and also some cool upgrades I've made over the years. Okay, so the first tip is basic checking on your MFT MDF top. All right, there is no cross bracing underneath. So over time, you may get a slight cup because you're gonna be cutting into the top. It's a sacrificial top. What I like to do is make sure you have a good straight edge, okay? And I'm gonna use this for an example. You can use shim stock, whatever. But here is where my bracing is around the frame. And you see how this is tight all the way across? What happens with constant cutting? And I check this area here because this is where I cut all the time, where my factory set stops are, is I'll go in here, and there's a reason I do this. Watch, see how it's tight here and here? Here, I don't have, oh, it's starting to go in a little. I'm starting to get slight bowing. So what I'll do is I'll take a 0.5 millimeter shim and see how I can't get it under there. I'm fine with that. What happens is if you're doing mirror cuts with your track saw and there's a dip in there, and this has happened to me, is your boards will go like this as you cut them simultaneously. So it's always good to check the flatness of your MFT3. Now I'm gonna check from diagonally like this, and I'm gonna see how it's tight here. It's tight here, but you're gonna see I'm slowly getting a very slight dip in there, but it's not significant as of yet. I have seen almost 1 millimeter dips in these over time because they've been cut a lot. So a little maintenance I do on the MFT3 is I sand the top to remove, sometimes I'll use it as my notepad, or they'll have some epoxy that drips on here, or some stain or finish. I just want to remove that. And I use 150 grit. If it's really degraded, I'll start lower grits and then work my way up to 150. What I like to do is I like to run a dust extractor over it, shop vac, because I can get out of these cut lines that I have in there, I can get all the dust. After I vac, I just do a quick wipe down to get any residual dust on there, because MDF dust can be very fine, especially with 150 grit. And there you go. Now it's time to put a quick finish on. So the finish I like to use on to seal my MFT3 tops, the MDF, is our basic seal coat. But I gotta mix it up first. I went out and got this, I think I got it at Lowe's. It's Zinsser seal coat, and most people would apply that. But I like to thin it, I do a 50-50 cut. And one of the hacks I wanna show you is I have this piece of particle board, okay, in my plywood rack at any one time. As soon as I start mixing something or finishing something on top of my MFT, I put this on here. So let's get mixing. I'm gonna do this in ounces. I'm gonna put 3 ounces of seal coat. I've already mixed it up. Good. And then 50-50 cut, another 3 ounces of denatured alcohol. So seal coat is shellac, and it's already been cut, but like I said, I cut it 50-50. So with shellac, it dries wicked quick. So I'll start on like right here and try not to overlap too much and just apply liberally, because you'll see that sucks right in there. With shellac, it's not that you really have to move, but I don't like to overlap too much. And I'm not worried about getting in my dog holes, my 20 millimeter dog holes, because I have a killer tip for that. So I'll put this in a jar, my remainder of my seal coat. But here's another tip for you. I'm looking at my graduated cup, measuring cup here, and I got about 2 ounces. So if you don't want to save your leftover, and I did 3 ounces of seal coat and 3 ounces of denatured alcohol, I only use 4 ounces on an MFT top, so you can do 2 and 2. Okay, so we let the shellac dry for about 30 minutes and it's fine. We can start working on it. You can do this as often as you want throughout the year. Now, there's one concern you may have by watching the video. I didn't pay too much attention to the dog holes. And if you're using your MFT for finishing or glue up, sometimes these holes get clogged, so your dogs are really tight getting in and out. So I found over the last year some really cool equipment. And they happen to be these. They're by UJK. If we look right here, these are ground at a perfect 90. So if there's any glue or finish that gets down in there, I can go in like this with a drill and clean them up, because that is a perfect 20 millimeter. So that just cleans the bore out of the dog holes. There's another reamer by UJK, and this is the handheld one. But if you notice right here, there's some insert tooling. And what that does is creates, and hopefully we can get in here, a slight chamfer. So if I put that in here, not only do I clean it, but I create a slight chamfer. And you're gonna see in an upcoming in this video why that is significant. If you don't want to do it by hand, what you can do is there's a version that fits right in your cordless drill. It reams, you have that shear angle right there, and you can do that little chamfer. So make sure you place it in first and then turn it on. And you'll see it creates that perfect chamfer all the way through and cleans out your hole. So that's one of the upgrades I've made to my MFT is I use these UJK reamers to clean out the dog holes, okay, for the finish or whatever, but also to put that chamfer. And you're gonna say, why a chamfer? So come in here, Chris. You'll see these are one of my favorite new upgrades to my table. And you see how that has a slight chamfer on it? When I put these in, and I'll show you what these are momentarily, they fit absolutely perfect snug. This is out of a non-marring, non-skid texture on top. And I love the low profile. So why do I have those? I used to use this, basically drawer liner. When I was sanding like this, I didn't want to clamp it and pretty much didn't move. On now, I use these when I sand, and they are just so nice to have in your shop. Here's another upgrade that you can get for your MFT3. These are the TSO power locks. You're gonna notice right here, there's that slight chamfer, and there's your chamfer there. But I also want you to notice this. See how this is perfectly in line, and this is a 20 millimeter cylinder? When I put this in here like this, and see how this is offset? And you see how it's perfectly flush? That's why that chamfer is nice. You're going to see when I tighten this, okay, it comes up, and this little piece comes out and locks it down to the table perfectly. This part, it goes on a variety of pieces, and yes, we're going to do a standalone video on these power locks coming up. I have a lot of great ideas for these. This is why I got them. So I've used these Bessie toggle clamps for a variety of setups over the years, and I've always had to use a knob underneath in my MFT to lock it down to my MFT. This is an inline one, and this is basically a hold down one. But what's unique to this is there's that power lock, so I could take that and it'll fit flush when I push it down. And if I open it up here, I could take a hex and lock it right down, because this little piece here swivels it out and locks it down to the table. So now I have a great hold fast clamping system. All right, so we're coming to the end of the video, and I want to talk about one of my new favorite stops in my shop, and I am finding so many uses for this. Not only on my MFT, but my big European style workbench. It's amazing. Okay, so I've had this for a few years, and I want to talk about this. This is still a vital stop in my shop. It's the TDS-10 by TSO. Okay, and I got one of these early on for a planing stop, and it works perfect for 1 inch 3/4. But right here, that is a standoff inside the hole. So the new TDS13 has been refined, where it uses that same style as the power lock. It doesn't lock down, which is great, but it has that slight chamfer. So this, the thickness of this piece of anodized aluminum is 12.5. And where this would get me in trouble, and I'm gonna put it back in here like this, is when I was working with what? 1/2 inch stock. Now it's been refined, so I can put that in there. It sits there, there's no offset underneath, it sits flush, and you can actually lock it in with a 5mm hex like this. It works perfect, and I have found so many uses for this because it sits flush, and I can work, you'll see now, I can work with 1/2 inch material. This is a vital piece in the SedgeTool shop now. So as you can see in the video, we use a lot of new upgrades, but I also covered pretty simple maintenance and sealing the top of your MFT3 top. All the links are down below in the description for all the new equipment we brought into the SedgeTool shop. You might have seen some of our videos where we've been using a straight edge extensively. So, hey, as we always say in the SedgeTool shop, I always forget this, be positive and stay sharp. And I mean wicked sharp.